With the help of all that information, I'm going to now share my Bitcoin prophecy. I think we're going to be $21 million in 21 years. It's a very special time in the network. Maybe the one time in the history of the network where you look out 21 years and you see 21 million. I expect 21 million coins at a $21 million price in 21 years, and people ask, how's the network going to grow? It's going to be growing at 21% in 21 years. The volatility is going to be 21. The only number you need to remember is the number 21. And what does that look like?
Ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do, Prague. Make some noise, get on your feet, and give it up for the one, the only, Michael J. Saylor! Love it.
Thank you. It's lovely to see the group. I had the opportunity to take selfies with about 400 of you this afternoon. And it was an honor. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming here. Today, I'm very excited to present the power of 21. My topic today is Bitcoin, time, and the engineering of generational wealth. For those of you who were in Nashville last July, I presented a few slides, and I want to take you back 11 months. So this was the status of the macro economy in July. Bitcoin was appreciating 55%. It was trouncing the NASDAQ and the S&P. Gold was a laggard. Silver was lame. Bonds were losers. Bitcoin was $1 trillion asset class. It was just less than 0.1% of the wealth in the world. But we could see that something was going to change. I presented a forecast in July, and I said, I really think my base case is Bitcoin's going to grow 29% a year for the next 21 years. And that's going to cause it to appreciate to $13 million Bitcoin. We had a macro forecast, and that meant that Bitcoin was growing to be 7% of all global assets. And it was growing to be its own asset class. And you can see here, $280 trillion, but the preeminent monetary asset in the world. So all of that was last July. Bitcoin was $65,000. What happened since? 11 months. Okay, this is extraordinary. I was, as Joe said, I was bullish last July. I've always been bullish, but when Bitcoin dipped to $16,000 during crypto winter, I was bullish. But stuff that's happened in the past 11 months has been extraordinary. The White House has embraced Bitcoin. This is an extraordinary development. We didn't anticipate this. We hoped that we would get a favorable administration, and we hope we get support, and we had this inkling, but November 5th brought a sea change in politics, and And although we thought we might have a pro-Bitcoin president, we didn't think we'd get a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We didn't think that the president would say, America will be the Bitcoin superpower of the world. This is an amazing development. The new administration, J.D. Vance, pro-Bitcoin, Robert F. Kennedy, pro-Bitcoin, Tulsi Gabbard, pro-Bitcoin, Kelly Loeffler, pro-Bitcoin, Paul Atkins, pro-Bitcoin, Brian Kentez, pro-Bitcoin, Scott Bessent, pro-Bitcoin, David Sachs, a new position, cabinet-level position, not just pro-Bitcoin, a cabinet member that would go on television and say Bitcoin is the one decentralized crypto network in the world. It is special. It is the digital commodity, right? The one thing that we've all known, but a cabinet member in the United States government says it. He said it in March of this year. Howard Lutnick, pro-Bitcoin. Kash Patel, pro-Bitcoin. Every one of these cabinet members flipped from 12 months earlier, where there would have been no one that would have been as bullish on Bitcoin as what we saw here. Wall Street embraced Bitcoin. $150 billion of capital, 1.4 million Bitcoin. This entire dynamic started in January of last year, but it accelerated after July. Public companies. My company was the first public company to adopt Bitcoin. People thought we were crazy. I thought we were late. Like some of you, I kept thinking that I got it right in 2013. Like, why didn't I buy in 2013? In 2020, I thought I was late. But what happened next is the second company, the third, then 130. Then companies like Trump Media and GameStop in 21. And now companies are racing to get into the Bitcoin 100. Used to be, we thought, oh, it'd be great. There's 10 Bitcoin companies and 20. Now there's 100. Now there's more than 100. Now we're all going to compete to move up the leaderboard. Yeah, let the games begin. Bitcoin wasn't an institutional asset. It wasn't cool on Wall Street. People thought it might be toxic. Well, now I have a whole set of equity analysts that write research and publish their research to investors, and they put a price target on Bitcoin. So now you have the entire equity capital markets embracing the asset class, writing about it, opining on it. You know, we went from an oddity, tulip bulbs maybe going away, to an entire array of analysts and investment banks starting to have an opinion. And of course, if you look at all the prices up there, their opinion is all positive, it's all bullish. Technology investors have embraced Bitcoin. What you see there is the Bank of America investment analyst equating Bitcoin to something as profound as the light bulb, the Model T, the World Wide Web, right? That's a very important rotation. Bitcoin is a technology. Bitcoin's not a speculation. Bitcoin is not an oddity. Bitcoin is not anarchy. Bitcoin is just the next great technology. Financial regulators embrace Bitcoin. This you never believe. The head of the OCC says banks should support Bitcoin. The Fed says it's okay for banks. They should get on and start supporting Bitcoin. The accountants say you need to provide fair accounting for Bitcoin. The SEC says it's okay to create ETFs of Bitcoin. This is an amazing development. Capitol Hill embraced Bitcoin. The House, the Senate, the Cabinet, You've got 3 bills, the Clarity Act, the Genius Act, the Bitcoin Act, all moving through Congress right now. This is something nobody guessed, no one conceived of a year ago. States in the United States are embracing Bitcoin. Governors, right? There's legislation working its way through state legislative branches everywhere. You know, Bitcoin is money for everybody. Bitcoin is for everybody, and everybody is getting interested in it. International governments embrace Bitcoin. Spokespeople for the UK, for Ireland, for Pakistan, for Bhutan, for El Salvador, for Russia, in China, in Hong Kong, in Europe, everywhere, right? They all have an opinion. Their opinion is this is very important. This is an extraordinary movement. The crypto industry has embraced Bitcoin. And this is extraordinary. You should all give yourself a hand because you've won. These are all public statements from the last 12 months, and let me tell you how I interpret this. This is everybody in the crypto ecosystem acknowledging that Bitcoin is the foundation of the crypto economy. Bitcoin is the reserve currency of the crypto economy. Bitcoin is the one central, certain, unshakable protocol and the fulcrum, the focal point of the entire industry. Everything else is built on top of it. There's been an amazing to me, unprecedented coalition that's come together in support of Bitcoin, and I think a realization that the entire industry needs Bitcoin as their ethically sound, economically sound, technically sound foundation if they're to have any future. And I think you guys should be very, very proud of that development. 12 months, what's going on? Bitcoin is still running hard, running harder than it has been, up 61%. The Magnificent Seven and the S&P are underperforming. They're struggling. The tariff wars, the trade wars have been a challenge for them. There's been a general mainstream lagging of confidence, and that's caused a surge in gold. But Bitcoin is running much harder than gold. Real estate soldiers on, and bonds continue to fail. Bitcoin's outperforming all asset classes this decade, too. So it continues with what you would expect, 56% on average ARR for the past nearly 5 years. More than double the Mag 7. That's more than double, about double the S&P. You've got gold, a little bit of a surge starting to catch up, but gold's still underperforming the S&P, and real estate less. This is an important chart. Here's what this chart is telling you. The cost of equity is 13%. That means that if a company's capitalized on gold, real estate, bonds, soybeans, oil, any other commodity, it can't beat the cost of equity. You cannot sell equity to buy real estate. It's dilutive. There is only one asset that a company in the world can hold that you can capitalize on that is higher than the cost of equity, and that is Bitcoin. And so you see the explosion in Bitcoin treasury companies is because now that the world's recognized a digital commodity, they also recognize it beats the cost of equity. That means that every public company, in theory, should recapitalize on Bitcoin, because when they sell equity, they're actually generating profits. They're creating an accretive transaction for their shareholders, right? The world is waking up to this. You see that hence you see an explosion, in the shares of Metaplanet and Smarter Web and H100 and Blockchain Group, right? This is going to continue. These companies are going to catch fire everywhere in the world in every capital market for one simple reason. Investors can see that 56% is more than 13%. It's just that simple. And this is it's a very powerful dynamic. And yet Bitcoin is just 20 basis points of global wealth. So here's an interesting thing. We are now at an inflection point. We have all the information to know Bitcoin is winning, and yet the majority, 99.8% of the capital in the world, still pretends and acts like it isn't. Most is still oblivious. You know something the rest of the world has not yet acknowledged, and yet it couldn't be clearer to all of us in this room. There's a monetary revolution afoot, a revolution in economic thinking. It's spreading everywhere in the world. It's fueled by the digital transformation of the capital markets that you see manifested in all of these companies and all of these securities and all of this Bitcoin activity. And it's going to be accelerated by explosive financial innovation. That innovation is surging now. You can see it everywhere around us. Every single company is thinking, how do I integrate? What am I going to do? So the revolution is afoot. The world is bullish on Bitcoin. It's being adopted faster and more aggressively by governments, by banks, by corporations, by investors than nearly all of us thought a year ago, right? We were bullish a year ago, but certainly I'm hearing now BBVA is supporting Bitcoin. I'm seeing the Secretary of the Treasury saying it's okay for banks to Bitcoin. We've seen the explosion of all these Bitcoin treasury companies. I didn't think they would go so fast. I didn't think Smarter Web would go from £4 million to £1 billion in 2 months. Let's give them a hand. That's amazing. You know, Metaplanet goes from 10 million to $1 billion, and I was ready to declare victory. I thought, that's great, that's 100x. And then they surged to 8 billion. Let's give Metaplanet a hand. It's amazing. So of course you're bullish, I'm bullish, but the point is the governor of Texas is bullish. The point is the president of the United States is bullish. The point is people you don't know in places you've never been are bullish. This is extraordinary. And I take a moment to go back to someone that was bullish when none of us were here, when none of us had this information. January 10th, 2009, the network launched technically January 3rd, but it was kind of clicking away by January 9th. And the next day, a certain genius estimates that Bitcoin could be $10 million a coin. And this is so humbling. It took the rest of us 16 years, $2 trillion in order to come to a conclusion that, yeah, this is going to happen. Thank you, Hal. Inflection point, ignition point, escape velocity. When a nuclear reactor comes online, when the chain reaction starts up, we call that criticality. Bitcoin's reached criticality. The network has come to life. The work's done. The power's flowing. And there's no off switch. Satoshi's fire is now unstoppable, right? The network is unstoppable. Thank you. Satoshi's point is the Schelling point of global money. We can now see, you can see, I can see, the rest of the world is beginning to see that in fact there is an inversion and there's a transformation. This network doesn't need me anymore. This network doesn't need anyone anymore. It's going to continue to grow, and no one can stop it. And so with that, with the help of all that information, I'm going to now share my Bitcoin prophecy. I think we're going to be $21 million in 21 years. It's a very special time in the network, maybe the one time in the history of the network where you look out 21 years and you see 21 million. Specifically, I expect 21 million coins at a $21 million price in 21 years, and people ask, how's the network going to grow? It's going to be growing at 21% in 21 years. The volatility is going to be 21. This is all, the only number you need to remember is the number 21. And what does that look like? Well, that looks like 28.5% from here. Not that different, slightly less than 29% ARR. But the path to 21 million, it's not going to be simple. It's going to be volatile. And so you're going to see a volatility, and it's going to damp over time, but you got to be prepared for the volatility, for the surges and the drawdowns, the good days, the bad days. This is Bitcoin's annualized return looking back a decade, looking forward 2 decades. And you can see that the network was growing faster when it's small. That's totally rational. It's now in the mid-50s. What do I expect? I expect it will continue to grow exponentially, but as it approaches hundreds of trillions of dollars, it will decelerate to the point where it's growing about 21% a year. Now, how does that compare to the S&P? It'll be growing faster. In 20 years, it's still going to be the best idea. It's still going to be the most lucrative capital asset a company can hold. It's still going to be durable, vital. There will not be a better investment in the year 2046. And I think it's very important to understand that Bitcoin's trending toward the performance of the best capital assets in the world, in the conventional world, which are like, Mag 7 digital monopolies mixed into an index. It's trending toward it, but it will never reach it. And it will never perform at that level because it's always going to be better. It's always going to be more useful. It's always going to be less risky. It's always going to have the counterparty risk of a company stripped away. There's never going to be a CEO to subpoena. There's never going to be a labor force. There's never going to be the challenge of a supply chain. It's never going to have a tariff on it. It's going to be pure digital energy, pure economic energy. By then, it will be moving at the speed of light on layer 2s, on layer 3s. It'll be moving 10 million times a second. It'll be trading between billions and billions of nodes and billions of other nodes. There's going to be nothing else to compete with it. It will be the most valuable thing, performing the best. You're not going to want to sell it in 21 years. You're just going to wish that you had acquired more of it. And here's the volatility. Looking back, volatility. Okay, it's 80, 90 vol, 100 vol. Today, it's the mid-50s, the mid-40s. What do I expect? Well, this is kind of very straightforward. The volatility is going to also dampen as the asset class grows, as the structure matures. As the options markets come on, when the banks embrace Bitcoin and they'll give you a loan, the volatility will damp. when it's fully banked, when it's fully optioned, when the mainstream investors are invested in it, the volatility will damp. But the volatility of the S&P is the VIX, it's 16. Bitcoin's going to be 21. Bitcoin's always going to be more volatile because it's more useful, because it's more pure, right? And because it's more leverageable, because you'll have more capabilities and you'll be able to do more with it everywhere in the world. It will be raw economic energy, and that's okay. Volatility is vitality. So now you have a future, $21 million, 21 ARR, 21 vol. This is the important part of the presentation. What will you do? First of all, you have a 21-year head start. You know something 99.8% of the capital in the world does not yet know, right? You know that this thing is unstoppable. You know that everybody needs it, and very few people understand it. That's the most valuable information in the world. If I told you Bitcoin was going to 21 million tomorrow, that's not useful. It's too late. I'm giving you something much more valuable. I'm giving you 21 years to leverage that information while everybody else is oblivious, while everybody else is afraid, while everybody else is distracted. You can do something. If you build the right machine, build a money-making machine for yourself. If you build the right machine and you plug it into the Bitcoin network, it will grow stronger every day. It will grow stronger every year. It will compound extraordinary wealth. Extraordinary wealth. And you will change your world. You have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change the destiny of everybody in your bloodline, to change the destiny of your community, everything you hold dear, to change the political course of human history. You can do it. You have the opportunity because you have the most valuable information in the world. And the question is, how are you going to do it? What is your Bitcoin strategy? You need a 21-year plan, right? If you have the vision, but you don't have a plan, you're just dreaming, right? You're not going to get there by talking about it. You need clarity. You need to know what's going to happen. You need courage. You need to be willing to take a risk. You need to put your own economic interest at risk. You're going to need to take a courageous step. And then you need to take action. Clarity, courage, action. People that understand Bitcoin buy Bitcoin. People that don't understand Bitcoin talk about Bitcoin. So what are you going to do? You're going to build a long-term plan based on disciplined work, responsible finance, sound engineering, and Bitcoin. So I'm going to lay out a few possible options for you here, and then you can decide what you want to do and how aggressively you want to do it. Let's start with this one. DCA, dollar cost averaging. What is the strategy? The strategy is work carefully for the next 21 years, buy $50,000 US worth of Bitcoin each year, increase your savings by 5% a year, and then hold the Bitcoin. That's a strategy. What happens if you do that? Okay, well, you can see your investment's going to gradually increment by the 5%. Over the 21 years, you'll end up putting $2 million of cash into this investment. And what's your outcome? You're going to end up with 1.9 Bitcoin. It's going to be worth $40 million. Okay, $40 million. How does that compare to other strategies? Well, if you take the same money and you put it into the 60-40 portfolio, if you're a conventional investor, if you take the advice of your financial advisor, you will have $4 million. If you put it in the S&P index, don't diversify out of that, you're going to have $6 million. If you actually invest in Bitcoin, but then every time Bitcoin doubles, you rebalance the portfolio. If you're responsible and you engage in that rebalancing, you'll have $15 million. If you let Bitcoin run by a factor of 10 and then you take money off the top and you rebalance that way, you'll have 28 million. And if you just buy the Bitcoin and don't think about the rest, you have 40. So the difference between conventional and Bitcoin is a factor of 10x. That's the DCA strategy. What's the next strategy? Leverage. Borrow $1 million up front. Pay less than 10% interest if you can. You're leveraging your future. You're going to tap your underutilized assets. If you got to sell your chairs, sell your chairs. Mortgage your house. Use capital intelligently. Ask your family for a loan. Approach your grandfather, your grandmother, your father, your sister, your uncle, your brother. Ask your friends next. Don't pay off your student loans. Definitely don't pay off your mortgage. Okay, what happens? Well, that's a single jolt of energy, one time. It's worth $190 million to you. Okay, that's actually the payoff of courage, taking a risk. What happens if you combine the two together? You basically borrow the money up front, you DCA, and then every year you leverage 5% of your existing Bitcoin stack into Bitcoin again. This is what the outlook or the outcome looks like. You're going to end up with $260 million of US dollar value. You end up with approximately 14 Bitcoin, and you can see the recycling of the leverage is a very powerful technique here. What about a financial strategy? Let's just take that a little bit further. What if I just recycle 15% leverage? Not 5%, 15%. You can still survive an 80%, 70, 60% drawdown. What happens? This. You'll be up to $370 million. And then here's a business strategy. I form a company. I maintain 10% leverage. I issue 5% equity every year at a multiple of NAV of 2. 5% dilution a year on a business. Okay, what happens there? Well, you're going to generate $760 million of wealth by issuing equity and by staying a little bit levered. And so you can see it when you consider these comparisons, right? DCA is work hard, invest in Bitcoin. Leverage is use some financial engineering. The DCA plus leverage takes you much further. The financial strategy, of course, is almost 10 times the DCA. And then the business strategy, of course, is extraordinary, almost 20x. Now, let's talk about tradecraft. How do you do this without getting liquidated? How do you do this in an intelligent fashion? So this is a credit matrix. On the y-axis is the interest rate you're paying. On the x-axis is the duration of the credit instrument. If you're borrowing money for less than 5 years, 4 years, you're a gambler. When you're borrowing short-term money, you may get liquidated, especially when you're borrowing money for 4 weeks or 4 days or 4 hours. This is a little bit of a risky zone. When you're borrowing money that costs you 20 or 30% interest in short duration, you are a loan shark victim. Okay, this is suicidal. You're going to get your legs broken. Do not do that. When you borrow money at expensive rates for long periods of time, you are an indentured servant. You're a debt slave. You're going to work your entire life. You're going to have nothing to show for it. That does not make sense. What you want to do is borrow money for 10 years or longer, and you'd like to get the interest rate below 10%. So 10-year duration, less than 10%. If you get to a 30-year loan with 3 or 4% interest, you're a financial genius. You know what that is? That's mortgaging your house 2 years ago to buy Bitcoin, right? That's the thing that all the non-coiners made fun of us for. But if you were smart enough to take a 30-year or 20-year mortgage at 3 or 4% and buy Bitcoin, you are a financial genius. Not complicated. You're swapping 3 or 4% cost of capital for a 29% return on the capital. What about equity? Okay, so you have a company. If you sell 90% of the company at 3 times NAV, you just cashed out. You made a lot of money, you're retired. You're gonna sit in a rocking chair, you're rich. Congratulations, right? That is your exit strategy. If you basically sold 50, 60% of your company at 3, 4, 5 times NAV, you're a racehorse, you're gonna be racing, you'll have a jockey, that's good, you're in business with other people. If you manage to sell 20% at 7 times NAV, you're looking like a unicorn. People are gonna write books about you, you're gonna be the cover of magazines. And if you can actually sell less than 10% of your company at a 7, 8, 9 times NAV, you're Pegasus, okay? You're a superstar, a shooting star, right? They're gonna write entire books and teach courses about you, right? So that red line is the no-go line. If you're selling equity below 1 times NAV, you're diluting your own shareholders, right? That's awful. And so you gotta stay above that. Now, some common objections. You're going to hear these objections. You're going to hear more of them from all of your, wealthy financial advisors or wealthy friends that are no-coiners. And they're going to say things like, hey, it's too late. It's too late. You did it. But, if I'd done it back in 2013 or done it in 2020 or done it whenever, it's too late. But here's what I have to say. Henry Ford decided to harness fire 1 million years after human beings discovered fire. It was not too late. It's not too late to use the wheel. It's not too late to master explosives. It's not too late. If you need a gun and someone invented a gun 500 years ago, you're not going to say, well, I guess it's too late for me. Or how about English? Someone learned English before you. It's too late. It's an old language. I guess it's not that useful anymore. Or to fly. I'm not the first person to fly. There's another company in my town. They installed electricity. It's too late for my company. After all, someone else installed electricity first. I don't really need electricity. It's too late. Or the mobile phone. Too late to use a computer. Too late to get on the internet, too late to go to space. It's too late to buy a Bitcoin. Here's what they're missing. Bitcoin's technology. It's not a speculation. It's the ignorant speculators that think it's too late because they don't understand that it's digital energy, it's digital technology. It's never too late to master technology. And I would leave you with the thought, it's never too late to do the right thing. I mean, it's very simple. Second big objection, it's a Ponzi scheme, it's tulip bulbs, blah, 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 it seems too good to be true. The 4 most dangerous words in finance, this time it's different. John Templeton. Well, Sir John Templeton is not on the walls of MIT's great court. They have Newton and Madame Curie and Einstein, and Galileo, but they did not put his name up there because he's not a scientist or an engineer. And the point is, this is different. Fire is different. Water is different. Wind is different. These things, guns, germs, When the Spaniards show up in the New World and 90% of the Native American Indians die because of the germs, it was different, right? These things are not the same. John D. Rockefeller noticed oil was different. If you're actually basing your strategy on a technology or a paradigm shift, then in fact, it is different. And the point here is Bitcoin is different. That's why it matters. People that tell you it's not different, they don't understand it, don't be swayed by them. And now, I'm going to end with some final thoughts. There's a saying in the American West, the cowards never started, the weak died along the way. In this case, to never start means to never invest in Bitcoin. If you have your money and it's invested in not Bitcoin, you never started. You have to put your capital into Bitcoin. And then the weak dying along the way, okay, well, you did a stupid deal with a loan shark and he broke your legs because you borrowed money for 4 weeks at 37%. Okay, don't do that, right? It's not an easy journey, but neither is getting in a wooden ship and sailing across the Atlantic an easy journey. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Everybody in this room can watch or wait, or you can go and create the future. Metaplanet's creating a future in Japan. H1's creating a future in Sweden. Smarter Web is creating a future. BTC Prague is creating a future. Everybody here is creating the future. Build the machine, put energy in it, turn the crank, harness the energy. 21 is the winning hand. You're sitting at a blackjack table and you get a king and an ace. You can't lose. We've got the winning hand, 21 in 21 years. You know it? There's only one way to lose, and that's not to play the game. Should you magically develop the ability to see the future 60 seconds in advance and you're sitting at the blackjack table and you see blackjack coming, bet large, right? That's how you win. You have to play the game. You have to bet. You have a winning hand. Play it. Embrace the volatility. Volatility is Satoshi's gift to the faithful. If Bitcoin was not volatile, people with more money than you, more power than you, would outbid you for the Bitcoin. You couldn't have it. The only reason you have the opportunity, the only reason that you have a 21-year head start is because it's volatile. At the point that it becomes completely predictable, Warren Buffett will say, oh yeah, we get it. We just bought all the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin went to 20 million a coin. Your opportunity is gone. You don't actually get rich if this thing doesn't stay volatile. In chaos lies opportunity. It's not the bug, it's the feature. Revel in it. When you're on a ship tossed by a turbulent sea and you get seasick, what do they tell you to do? Focus on the horizon. Look out. What is the horizon? The horizon is 21 years, and what's on the horizon? $21 million. And don't pay attention to what's happening in the here and now. Look out. It will calm you. You won't do something you're going to regret later. HODL, what does it mean? It means ignore the noise. It means the noise dilutes your performance. It distracts your attention. It detracts from your quality of life. The news media, everybody is constructed to actually generate noise, to generate inflammation, to tell you, oh, this or that or the other thing, and you have to avoid allowing it to make you make a mistake or wreck your life. HODL. Remember, on the horizon, 4.8 Bitcoin makes you a centimillionaire. You'll be 300 times as wealthy as the average middle-class person at that point. 48 Bitcoin makes you a billionaire in 21 years if you can get to 48 Bitcoin. And trust me, you're going to want to get to 48 Bitcoin if you can. Why? This is the chance to build your legacy, right? Thinking beyond yourself, you can do it for your family, do it for your children. If you don't do it for your children, do it for your community, do it for your way of life. At the end of the day, do it for everybody in this room. Do it for the people that took this journey with you, that bled, that sacrificed, that took risk, that fought for this thing that you have an opportunity to share in. This is your legacy. Leave that. If you don't leave it to your children, leave it to the Bitcoin community. And I will see you at 21 million. Be there. Thank you.
Give it up for Michael Saylor. See you at 21 million. Amazing.